colder than it was before.
Should I turn it up?
Great.
Yeah, you can start.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Peace for everyone.
Peace for everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yai yalalai yalalai yalalai. Shabbat Shalom. Yai yalalai yalalai yalalai. Shabbat Shalom.
Hine matov.
Hine matov
Umanayim.
umanayim.
Shevet achim.
Shevet achim.
Gam yachad.
Gam yachad yalalai yalalai.
Everybody get into these words.
Yalalai. Shabbat Shalom. Yalalai yalalai. Shabbat Shalom. Oh, how wonderful.
Oh, how wonderful.
How amazing.
How amazing.
Here together.
Here together.
We are one.
We are one.
Yalalai, 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 yalalai. Shabbat Shalom. Yalalai, yalalai, yalalai. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is wonderful to see our parking lot full, our sanctuary as full as it's been for a while, to see faces we haven't seen. Some people traveled all the way from South Carolina just to be here tonight, and so it's great to see old friends back, and many new faces, and so many kids. And so we want to remind all of our parents, especially, that we love your kids. And we love them when they run around, and we're fine with that. So don't stress out. And we hope that they'll take part in our service as much as they can. Hopefully you all got prayer books. In the midst of our service, about halfway through, Lauren Trexler, our educator, is going to take our kids into the library, and we're going to talk about adult stuff. And so we don't want them to be bored. You guys can be bored. They're too young to be bored. And so the kids will leave in the middle of the service, and they'll go do an activity with Lauren, and then they'll come back at the end. So most importantly, welcome everybody. We're going to light our candles, page 2 in our prayer books. We'll begin with our candle blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner, Ladlik ner shel Shabbat.
We're excited to have new members Shabbat, but more exciting than having new members Shabbat is having new members. And so we want to invite you, if you've, normally we would invite you to introduce yourselves. But we're not going to do that tonight because we know it's very hard to talk through a mask and it's very hard to hear people. So that's my apology in advance. We will ask you, please stand because we'll look at you and see you with your mask on. We'll try to recognize you from the eyes up. If you've joined our congregation in the last year, please stand for a moment as we'll share Shechianu for new beginnings, for the beginnings of these relationships, and for you being here in our congregation, many of whom are joining at home. They're standing at home also. And so let's say Shechianu for the beginning of these new relationships for those who have joined our congregation in this past year.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Please be seated. You'll turn your attention to our Jumbotron as we invited a few of our new members to lead us in a prayer. We pre-recorded it so that they could be, some of them are here tonight and on the screen. Some of them couldn't make it into our sanctuary this evening, so they're joining us, and we invite them to lead us in prayer.
Of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of the synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May the synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to the richer and more gainful life.
Amen.
Amen. We invite our little ones, our religious school students. If you are in our religious school, if you'll make your way up to the first step. Unless your name's Hugh, because he's already shaking his head, he's not going to come, right? But then I get to embarrass you in front of everybody anyway. So our religious school students come up on the first step. They've been practicing this song, and they're going to lead us in Hine Matov. There's some clapping involved, so we know wearing masks makes it sometimes harder to sing, but you can definitely clap. So follow our kids as they're going to help lead us in the choreography and the words of the song. Page 10 in our prayer books.
Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Let's do that again. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Repeat after me. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is
To be together on this day. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is.
To be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem. Shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is.
To be together on this day. How good it is. is,
How good it is.
how sweet it is
How sweet it is
to be together on this day. Hine matov, hine matov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
All right, thank you for welcoming us, our religious school students. You can make your way back to your parents. Page 20 in our prayer books, we welcome Shabbat, the words of Lecha Dodi.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela.
Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishmi'anu elav yuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, Hashem el tiferet v'litila.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki mekor habaracha meirosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh mamashcha v'achila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela. Verse 5.
Itore ori, ki ba'oreku mi uri, daberi, ebod Adonai alai figla.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela.
Please rise as we face our entrance and welcome Shabbat.
Bo'hi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha uv'zochula, toch emuni am segula. Bo'hi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekavela.
Page 26. Remain standing.
Yitkadav Shemei Rabbah, Be'almad Yivrach Yirtei V'yamlich Malchutei, V'cha Yechon Uv'yom Echon, Uv'chayedecho Ben Yisrael, Ba'agala, Uv'izman Kari Ve'imeru, Amen. Yehesh Me'Rabbah Mevorach, Le'alam Me'almaya Yitbarach, V'ishtabach, V'yitpar, V'yitrama, V'yitnasi, V'yitadar, V'yitali, V'yitalal, Shemei D'Kodesh Avarehu, Le'elam Yinkom B'chata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Ta'amiron Be'oma, v'meru. Amen.
Neglected to thank Rob and Jeremy for being here to add to our prayers this evening, to welcome them as Cantor Kathy continues to bring Cleveland to Akron. We're increasing our population and our the beauty of our prayers. So it's wonderful to have you with us. We'll formally begin our service, page 28, the words of Baruch Hu, as we face east.
La 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai. Hamevorach Baruch Adonai. Hamevorach, Hamevorach leolam va'id. Hamevorach, Hamevorach leolam va'id.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. God, we take note of the way in which our world changes. Too often noticing how it has changed for the worse, we take a moment now to reflect on how it has changed for the better. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Bring us a sense of goodness as we watch this day turn into night. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah umitzvot. As you taught Torah to those whose names that we bear, teach us Torah too, even as its mystery beckons and we struggle with its truth. We remind ourselves that you meant Torah for us, and we ask if you meant the struggle for us as well. So don't let us struggle alone, but rather help us to understand, to be wise, to listen, and to know as we are led into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema, page 34 and 35.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated as we share together the words of Yahavta.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We're going to invite our children to go now with Lauren. So Lauren, if you'll stand up by the door there. And if you are in elementary school, especially those under 4th grade, we want you to go find Lauren and you will go have your own Shabbat experience in the library. Page 39, we join together. Please join with me at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 40, Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha neder b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh pele, nora tehilot oseh pele. Malchutecha ra'uvanecha, v'keyayam lifnei Moshe, ze'elianu ve'amaru, ze'elianu ve'amaru. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha neder b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh pele, nora tehilot oseh pele.
Let there be love and understanding among us, and as these days become shorter and darkness enters our world earlier, we turn especially to the words of Hashkivenu that we find in this evening, not a sense of the world shrinking, but rather of peace increasing, of comfort increasing, and of our sense of prayer reaching those whom we love. Page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu lefa'im. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu lefa'im. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu
The Amidah begins on page 46. It's our opportunity to reach back through the generations of our people, to call upon the generations of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, of the matriarchs that walked through the wilderness with them, but also to recall our own family, the way in which we came to be in this place, and to add our own voice, as it'll conclude with a moment of silence, a moment for us to offer the words of our own hearts, as we write our own prayers this evening as part of our Amidah as well. Page 46, please rise as we begin with these words.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agita hilatecha Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezra Tzara. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Mashiv ha'ruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim b'chesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofech cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Micha mocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'emanat alahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol.
Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh ukdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha sela baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, our holy God. Please be seated. Page 59, we take note of that which is good in our world and good in our lives as we offer this prayer of thanks. Please join me at the top of page 59. We say together, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'cha na'eh lehodot. We look out at the world, and too often today it scares us. Earlier today, I received a note, by that I mean a Facebook post, of a colleague who asked us to offer prayers for his congregant who's being held in Myanmar for being a journalist, sentenced earlier this week to 11 years for writing against the government. And these things seem to fade into the background of our world today. But when someone points out that this was a child in their congregation, much like our children run around our congregation, we remember that the pain and suffering that we see is attached to families and faces and names and other kids who ran around synagogues and churches and mosques. And so we offer the words of Shalom Rav, that for all of the people whose faces are foreign to us, who face tragedy and pain, that they find shalom, and for all of those who out in the world are facing tragedy and their faces are common to us, familiar, so too. Shalom Rav, may the greatest sense of peace find its way to all of those who suffer in our world today. Page 60.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
Ki atah melech adon l'chol hashalom.
וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Please take a few moments for silent meditation.
May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down.
May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh,
Say shalom.
be Roma. Oh, say shalom. Be Roma. Oh, say shalom. Be Roma. Oh, say shalom. Be Roma. Huya se shalom. Huya se shalom. Huya se shalom. Hallelujah. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Amen. Oh, say shalom. Be Roma. Oh, say shalom. Be Roma. Oh, say shalom. Be Roma. Oh, say shalom. Be Roma.
Shabbat Shalom. Given that tonight's our new member Shabbat, and many of you here tonight, either in person or virtually, don't know that much about us, or perhaps don't know that much about at least our mission statement, unless you read our website, which I give you credit for. I want to tell you what we decided a few years ago. The board voted that we describe ourselves, our mission, as a place where we are kindling the passion to connect to each other, to the sacred, and to the world. And I have to tell you that years ago when we were debating this, the hardest part of coming up with this one sentence was whether we would use the word kindling or not, because it seemed that if we used the word igniting, it felt sort of violent. If we used the word sparking, it felt sort of cheesy. And so we decided we're kindlers. We like to sort of warm things up, but not make them explode. Tonight, though, I want to focus on not a word that took a long time to find. In fact, it was probably the easiest of the statement. But it is one that I think we take for granted. The word is connect. We love this word. It was easy to put in that sentence. But we underestimate it. We don't realize exactly what it does for us. I've recently started listening to a new podcast by Nora McInerney. Anybody familiar with Nora McInerney? Anybody? No? Oh, good. See? Then you won't know anything of what I'm about to say. So, she seems wonderful, although she's had a tough go of it. She wrote a number of books. She comes up with great titles. One is The Hot Young Widows Club, or It's Okay to Laugh, but Crying is Cool Too, a memoir. Her podcast is titled, I'm Terrible, Thanks for Asking. Her writing and her speaking and her podcast are a reflection on the aftermath of her losing her husband shortly after she was married. And in the aftermath of that loss, her somewhat humorous, straight-talking voice has started to talk about some of the stuff that most of us avoid talking about. So in the episode I listened to this week, Nora couldn't sleep. She was up at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling, an image I imagine we could each describe the ceiling right above our beds, because each of us has had nights, hopefully not many, but for some of us it has been, where we lay there unable to fall asleep. So she's staring at her ceiling, but because she has created this life for herself, she decided that she wouldn't lay there alone, per se. So she went to her Instagram. She has a number of followers now. She posted at 2 a.m., "Why are you up?" The remaining 45 minutes of the podcast is simply filled with people who at 2 a.m. in the morning recorded for her why they were up. One woman could not stop thinking about the pasta that she bought. She realized that she bought shells instead of strings. We laugh, but as she explained at 2 a.m., in this case, her mother lives with her, and her mother lives with a crippling illness. Her mom cannot eat pasta shells because she can't keep her fork balanced enough to hold the pasta. So she couldn't sleep because she was filled with guilt and regret that when she would leave for work in the morning, her mom, who didn't fully understand what food there was to eat, wouldn't be able to have lunch. A number of callers up at 2 a.m. had no regrets like the first caller, but they couldn't sleep because they were afraid. One new mother couldn't stop thinking about the scary world her newborn baby was inheriting. She worried about the environment, about how the world seems to be deteriorating, or COVID, and how people she knew who were immunocompromised might not survive. Another person was awake at 2 a.m. because she could not stop thinking that her new fiancé might die. It sounds crazy, but 5 years prior, her fiancé died. So now, even though she was filled with joy for having found love again, something she said she never thought she would have, in the middle of the night, the trauma of losing her first fiancé 5 years prior, it keeps her up. We fool ourselves sometimes by telling kids and telling ourselves that there are no monsters under their beds or in their closets, when in fact, we see them all the time. At 2 a.m., when the world is quiet and dark, as one caller shared, you know how far away you are from others when you see the shadows cross your ceiling. So if we're up at 2 a.m., unable to sleep, it's probably because our mind is working overtime. Because the silence, the darkness, the inevitable aloneness that comes in the middle of the night, even if there's somebody laying right next to you, the middle of the night lets our regrets and our fears and our trauma sit right at the forefront of our mind, and it keeps our eyes open. And too often we feel alone. Because who are we going to call at 2 a.m.? It's the reason I loved what Nora McInerney did. She put it out there, and what did she find? She's not the only one up at 2 a.m. In fact, there's a whole world of people worrying just like her about their own stuff, sleepless with anxiety, and they were more than willing to talk to her in the middle of the night. In a few moments, Cantor Kathy is going to read the beginning of the well-known story of Jacob's dream out of the Torah. It's the story of the ladder with the angels going up and down. You know it well because it's one of the most popular stories, not only told, but put into art and music. And I still think Led Zeppelin had something with Stairway to Heaven. They were cheating off of Genesis. Here's how it reads. Jacob came upon a place, and he tarried there all night, for the sun had set. Taking one of the stones, he put it under his head and lay down, and he had a dream. A ladder was set on the ground, and its top reached to the sky, and angels of God were going up and down on the ladder. And verses later, we read a famous line as well. He wakes up, and immediately he says, Yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. God was in this place where I am, and I didn't know it. That one verse, like the imagery of the ladder, that's the title of many books. We use it all the time to say, no, God is right before us, even though we don't see God. And yet, if you ask me, the story makes no sense. The story has no reason for God's presence, let alone a ladder, unless we propose that Jacob is more like us than we might imagine. So here's how I tell the story. Jacob is traveling through the desert. The sun sets. He is alone. He is afraid. The world is dark. He has no idea if he or his children will have a good future. And he can't sleep. So he tarries around, walking back and forth, filled with anxiety. When he does close his eyes, he dreams of a ladder. A tool meant for one purpose and one purpose only, to connect two things that otherwise would not be connected. And then he realizes he is not alone. He sees that his life is filled with beings, human and divine, who are connected to him wherever he is, whenever he is scared. He just has to close his eyes. In the fullness of day or in the darkness of night, he has a ladder, a tool that brings seemingly disconnected things, disconnected people out of our reach right before us. When Nora McInerney posted her message, "Why are you awake at 2 a.m.?" she put up a ladder. And instantaneously, people started using it, and she wasn't alone. That is the power of connection. And we know that. What we have a hard time with is finding the tool. What's the ladder? What is it that if we put it before us, it will bring forth the connection in some place where we don't believe that connection exists? The mission of this synagogue, I imagine we're not alone, probably most synagogues and churches, is to be that tool. To be the ladder that shows you how your life is connected to someone or something where you do not see that a connection is possible. That is what we celebrate tonight as we welcome new members into this congregation. We celebrate the growing idea that just because you cannot see the connection does not mean that it does not exist. We cannot see our loved ones whom we've lost. Many of us here tonight are sharing names of people who lived life with us but who are not easy to connect with anymore. And yet, we come here, we say their name, we build a ladder, and we are connected to them with a community of people who also believe that we can connect to them by sharing their name and saying a prayer. We don't believe that a kid from Wadsworth has any reason to be friends with a kid who lives in the Falls or a kid who lives in Copley, let alone if they go to Copley versus Revere. But they enter this space And we believe they can be lifelong friends simply because here they belong. We have a bar mitzvah in a few weeks. It's my easy plug for all of you to come to Braden Sheridan's bar mitzvah. Not 10 years ago, no one in his family was Jewish. We believe that a kid in a few years can come read Torah and lead the congregation. When years ago, we would have said, we don't see how that would happen. When the world feels unjust, we believe that an invisible ladder can be built. For those who joined us last night on the social action panel that was hosted by Wise Temple in Cincinnati, topic was on the death penalty. It was incredible. The ladder was in action. Not only has the Reform movement joined together with the Catholic Church to ask our state to abolish the death penalty, but the state senator who sponsored the bill on our behalf is a devoted, prayerful Christian, conservative, and staunch pro-life advocate, proud to say so in her introduction. Today's world would tell us that there is absolutely no connection to be had between Senator Schmid of rural Ohio and the progressive Jewish movement in Akron. But that's not what we believe. We believe we can build a ladder and that it will connect us in some way that we couldn't see before. And so last night she thanked us, her progressive Jewish friends in Northeast Ohio, because she believes that life is valuable, and she knows we believe that too. And she thinks we can agree on this. And she thinks that if she stands next to a bunch of Jewish people, most of whom people presume are liberals, she can go tell Governor DeWine that she's got a coalition to pass a new law, and he said he would listen. We believe that connections can exist where they did not previously. And we believe when those connections are created, when ladders are placed, and new heights are achieved, just as it says, Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. We believe we'll be surprised that we didn't know God was in this place, but only if we do the work to put the ladder there. It does not say God just showed up. It does not say that Jacob didn't have issues that he was struggling with. We have struggles and we have work to do, which is why, for the newest members of our congregation, we gather tonight to thank you, because before you were even here, you created a connection that we couldn't see yet. We pray that we can be here for you during the highs and the lows in your life, when you need us to be, when you're up all night for whatever reason. Call the cantor, don't call me. And perhaps occasionally we'll be there when you don't even want us to be there. We're good at that. So we ask you to be patient for us when we overreach. We're simply a ladder-climbing people. We like to put ourselves in places where others don't see a connection and make one happen. And we ask you to be assertive for us, because sometimes we miss the mark. Sometimes we don't see what's going on in your lives. Sometimes we don't reach out when we should, and we want you to know that's always a mistake. So call us on it. Don't wait for an invitation to be there for us when you need us, and we won't wait for an invitation to be there when we need you. To be here in this space, in this community, is to know that you are connected to a community, to the world, and to something that, in our best moments, we know is sacred. We thank you for adding strength to our community, to adding breadth to our community, to allowing us to reach more parts of our world. We thank you for being there for us now and in the future, and we hope we can be there for you as we march together, hand in hand as one community, putting up ladders, finding ways to bring God into the midst of the places others can see no connection, but where we declare there is one. Shabbat Shalom. We'll turn to our Torah service and hear these very words now We invite you to rise, page 246. There it goes.
Ki mitzion tetze Torah, ki mitzion tetze Torah, udavar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, le'amo Yisrael, B'kedushato, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadolu Adonai iti, Unaramema Shemo Yakta. Lecha Adonai Hagedula, Hagebura, V'hatiferet, V'hanetzach, V'hahod. Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai HaMamlacha, V'hamit naseh b'chol erush.
Please be seated.
Please join me in the blessing on page 250. Baruch hu Adonai hamborach, Baruch Adonai hamborach le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva vayalech harana. Vayivcha b'makom vayalem sham kiva hashemesh. Vayikach me'avnei hamakom vayasem ra'ashotav vayishkav b'makom hahu. Vayachalom, v'hine sulam mutzav artza, v'rosho magia hashamayma, v'hine malachei aleha Elohim, olim v'yordim bo. V'hine Adonai nitzav alav vayomar, ani Adonai, Elohei Avraham Avicha, Elohei Yitzchak Haaretz, Asher Ata Shacheb Aleha, Lechal Atnena Ultzar Echa. The ending blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, ve'achei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
With our Torah out, the strength of our story before us, we offer our prayer for all of those who are in need of healing, and in the midst of our prayer, we invite you to share their names aloud.
Yishebevach avoteinu mikol habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless trust the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
If you'd like to share a name, please feel free to share it aloud as we look around the room.
Jonah Rubinenko and the Rubinenko family.
Howard Flock.
Mishemera imotenu mekor Abraham leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, Amen.
Please rise as we return the Torah to the Ark.
V'zot Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. Yalai lai yai yalai lai lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai yai lai 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 lai. Etz Chaim hi למחזיקים בה, ותומכיה מאושר. דרכיה דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה. חדיש, חדיש ימינו, חדיש ימינו כקדם. Please remain standing for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tekedu l'aliotzer reshit, shelo asanu k'yuyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo samchelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu k'chahamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד. ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
Thus it has been said, Adonai will be sovereign over all the earth. On that day, Adonai will be one, and God's name will be one. Please be seated. Take a moment now to connect with those, as we always do. Those with whom we reach out for in our daily lives, the people who walked through life with us, especially those that we've lost in these last weeks. We remember them now with great blessing: Gerard Deedy, Estelle Kaufman, Rose Reagan, Sidney Dambrot, Stanley Marks, Benjamin Richmond, Gilbert Weiner, and Nat Givner. We remember those that we've lost at this season and years past: Kent Barrett, Sidney J. Bear, Leona Bear, Eve Bennett, Nathan M. Burke, Isidore Danelski, William Epstein, Moshe Fabian, Zach Frank, Helen Freiser, Leonard Freiser, Abraham Friend, Lenore Glauberman, Angela Haar, Dr. Francis K. Herwig, Rebecca S. Hullub, Michael Jacobs, Shirley LaBelle, Joseph Lieberman, Selma E. Loeb, Howard Lowry, Helen Rabb Page, Abraham Pliskin, Henry Schwartz, Arthur Yale Shapiro, Ludwig Spielberger, Jack P. Sussman, Olive Sussman, Helen Vernesek, Jack Weintraub, and Bryn Wise. If there are names I mispronounced or names you'd like to share, please share them. We rise, page 294. We share the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. B'alma divrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. B'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei olmaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechamata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Having connected with those that we've loved and lost, and connect with each other as we bless each other with the words of the priests. May God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace.
Amen.
I'm going to invite our junior congregation up. Stay standing for a moment. All the kids can come back up here. You're going to help us lead Kiddush and Motzi. Look how well these parents have raised these kids. They follow directions so well. Except for the middle schoolers, like the one that lives in my house, and there are a few other. Yeah. Somewhere along the line, they lose the direction following. We raise our glass as we sanctify this Shabbat with the words of Kiddush, and then you shame them and they come. See, that's over.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho v'ahava u'ratzon hinki lanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'charta v'otanu kiddashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'vratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai
mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
All right, kids, will you help lead us in Motzi? Join together on the count of three. We'll raise the challah up, and you're not allowed to touch it. We get in trouble if you all touch it. I know. Another day. All right, let's join together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
All right, you guys can go back to your families. This is staged. I said you can go back to your families. Alex says, this is my family. I know. Well done.
Paid him a lot of money for that.
That's
one.
right. Checks in the mail, Alex. All right, you can all be seated. We invite Elaine Newman, one of our co-presidents, to share some quick announcements with us, and then we'll conclude our service.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
A few thank yous. Junior congregation, you were wonderful. Glad to have you, and we'll hope you have you back really, really soon. Thank you to Rob and Jeremy for having wonderful music again, and thank you, Ken or Kathy, for bringing them to us. So, Hanukkah supplies are for sale in the vestibule. The gift shop has been recently restocked with gift items and will be open from 9:30 until noon on Sunday, November 21st. If you want an appointment, please call the office. We Sing with Ken or Kathy will be November 21st at 10 a.m. in the Temple Library. Now, Dewey's Pizza fundraiser, November 23rd, right before Thanksgiving. Mention Temple Israel when you place your order. Get up to 20% will be given back to the religious school. So they would prefer you do takeout, by the way, no dining in. Then we have Homecoming Shabbat, November 26th. Ken or Kathy, Brett, Noah, and Hallie Frompson, all on the bima. Please wear your school colors. To our new members, welcome. In the lobby tonight will be Candy Merriman, if you'd stand up. And the membership committee, you can all stand up if you're here. They'll all be out there to welcome you, and we have boxes to thank you for being our new members, and we hope to see you soon. And on behalf of my co-president, Andrew, and myself, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And what was that? I don't know.
That's power.
Yeah.
That's the
Elaine,
president.
Elaine's radioactive. It's, we'll stand as we'll close with the words of Odiavo Shalom Aleinu. May we leave this space, go out into our Shabbat, find the greatest sense of peace with our kids, with our family, our friends, and our sacred community. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu.
Odiavo Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'akulam. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'akulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol olam. Salam, salam. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu.
Odiavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.